And there was a point where everything's out of stock on the website. I've closed my laptop. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. There's 30 grand's worth of outstanding sales.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I was like, wow, I'm onto something here.
Sweet. So if we go back to kind of, you were doing the apps around fitness.
Yeah.
When did Gymshark become a thing, like relative to the app design stuff?
So it was 2012 when the company was founded. And the reason it was started was, one, I wanted a website that would transact. So before that, I'd made the basic number plate website. I'd done all these different basic apps. I messed around with a few WordPress websites, fitness forums, tried to make a little fitness social network. It was all just a bit messy. It wasn't particularly great. And then it was like, right, I've done all these different things. Let's do a website that will transact. That's where I stumbled upon Shopify.
Shopify ran in 2012. That would have been really early days for them.
It was early days, very basic. But it was just, again, it was just a simple solution of transacting online, which was great for us. Now, because essentially the time wasn't taken up with massive hours on development, then we were really thinking carefully about the product. And I really wanted to be involved in fitness by any way that I could. And at the time, I was massively into supplements. I think anyone that first gets into the gym, you like looking at all the different nutrition, you hear about how important it is. And I went to a mate of mine, worked at a local company, and I said to him, I want to stock supplements on the website. What's your minimum order? And the minimum order was £8,000 for supplements. Now, I'd never heard of £8,000, let alone seen £8,000 at the time. I was at Pizza Hut on, it was £4 something an hour. It was just, I wouldn't have been able to afford that. So I sort of sat down, and now sort of the term drop shipping, you know, I think it's a term that a lot of people will understand. And for those of you that don't, it's basically you don't hold stock. Someone orders from you, and basically you act as a middleman. Someone else ships it out to the customer. Now, at the time, I'd never heard of drop shipping, but I had this sort of idea of, okay, so I've got limited knowledge of a website, and I know around how Google works. And I know that I want a large website. I want it to be broad. I want a vast product array. I want lots of pages. I want it to index well in Google. It's brand new. It's not going to be seen otherwise. So what I did was I drop shipped loads of supplements from the Gymshark website, filled it up with loads and loads of supplements, wasn't making great margin, but it was, again, if we're looking back to the bar that was set, the very low bar of, I want to be involved in fitness, and I want a website that transacts. Yeah. So I'd sort of filled that, right? Even though we didn't own the stock. Did that for a while and took a few months, got a sale. First sale, I was dancing around my bedroom like it was the best feeling ever.
First sale as in someone bought a supplement?
Yeah, someone bought something online.
After a few months?
Took about 2 months
to
get
bloody
the
hell,
first
okay,
sale.
that's a long time.
I'd sort of, it was at the point where like you almost forget about it. It's like running in the background. I think we were paying Shopify a few quid a month. The domain cost me £3.50. So my sort of my investment costs would have 20 quid round numbers as a guess. So you sort of forget about it. Got the sale and I was just buzzing. It was a £50 sale and we made £2 profit on it, but it was a sale.
Nice.
Did that, kept going, started to get the odd sale, like a sale every week and so on. And basically I bought a tank because I was obsessed with bodybuilding. I wanted to be, I'd sort of realised I was never going to be a footballer. I wanted to be a bodybuilder. So I bought this tank online, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger style stringer tank, and it just completely drowned me. Basically fell through the middle of it because it was built for a big bodybuilder, not sort of someone like me with more of a slender frame. So at that point I thought, right, I would love for us just to make our own clothing because no one makes the clothing that we want. Conveniently, my nan was doing a curtains course. My mum knew how to sew. Local lad knew how to screen print. So saved up, bought a screen printer and a sewing machine, and started to hand make the clothes from there.
So you went from supplements to clothes?
Yes.
Because you saw a problem that you wanted as clothing that looked a certain way?
It was like a selfish problem, right?
Yeah.
I wanted this stringer. I looked terrible in it. I was looking around online. Yeah. No one was making the product that we wanted. So we did it. And it was at that weird time, right, where I loved the California bodybuilding aesthetic. A lot of the American product just wasn't really coming over to the UK. And that was, it didn't fit in the way that we wanted. Things over in Europe and the UK were starting to get a lot more fitted and tapered. It was that, Top Man 2 for £10 era when everyone wore skinny jeans and little tight tops. So it was like that weird morphing of, okay, so I want to be able to look like a bodybuilder, but I just haven't got the size. This was like the fashion over here. So all of a sudden, the idea came, how great would it be to make fitness wear that would really accentuate your physique and taper yourself in? And that's when we started to hand make the clothes.
Okay. So what was the trajectory then? So you start hand making the clothes. When did things start to really take off?
I would guess 2015.
Okay.
About 2015, so about 3 years in. And that was when we did our first Body Power, our first event, basically. And that was the trigger point where all of a sudden it went from being this thing that I did from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. to I'm now going all in on this.
Okay.
And it was around that first event that we did.
Well, what happened at that first event?
So as a kid, so about 20 minutes from where I grew up, there's the Birmingham NEC. So it's a large event space. And every year they would do an event called Body Power. So my heroes, these American lifters, bodybuilders, they would all fly in. Everyone have a huge fitness event once a year. So I would go as a kid. And then the one year that we went, which would have been 2014, I believe, 2013, 2014. And I was walking around and Gymshark existed. And this time it was sort of drop shipping supplements. We were in that bit where I'm about to buy the screen printer and sewing machine. And I'm walking around. I'm just thinking, Gymshark has to be here, which was mental because we had no stock at the time. There was no physical manifestation of Gymshark, and I just had this gut-wrenching feeling that we had to be here by any means necessary. So I'm walking around, and I'll never forget it because I'm in a bit of a rush because I'm there on the day, and I know I've got my pizza shift at 5, and it was coming to like 3 o'clock, and I'm thinking, right, I need to sort of make an action here and do something because I need to get to work. And I've gone to the show office, and funnily enough, the guy that runs it, who's now a friend of mine called Ollie, and there was Steve as well, who were there. And I just said, right, I want a stand, cheapest stand you can get, give me a stand, I want to be here next year, what's the price? And it was $3,000. Again, $3,000 was a hell of a lot of money, but now it was more reasonable that within 12 months, I could earn £3,000 because I had the job, Gymshark was starting to get a few sales. It wasn't crazy. So there and then booked into the stand. Followed it up on email, got it going. Then over the next year, Gymshark we started hand making the clothes, we started getting regular sales. We actually started to become a profitable business. So upgraded the stand, started to work more closely with some of my heroes who were YouTubers. And we basically brought those guys to this event. So we'd stumbled upon the marketing mix that many online people use today, right? We'd had a product that was only available at this event. We'd accidentally built scarcity because we turned the website off while we were there. Not through a strategic decision, but because we weren't hand making the clothes, we had to turn the website off because otherwise people might order and not get them sent. We flew these YouTubers in who were, again, not strategic, just our heroes, and I just really wanted to meet them. And then we would go to this event and we were starting to build a community because at the end of each day, we would just go and lift down the road in Ironworks in Birmingham and just get a lift in with, me, my friends, the athletes, the local fans, and we were building this community. So as we were doing this lifting and whatnot, people were taking pictures, they were putting on Facebook, and the brand started to go viral without us really knowing. So the event went incredibly well. We completely sold out of everything. And then after the event, turned the website back on. And this was the moment where it hit home because we went from doing £300 a day as initial revenue to £30,000 in the first half an hour of the website being live. And it was like boom, overnight. Yeah. And going back to that, like the website, everything was set to infinite stock because we would never get enough sales to ever trouble the scoreboard. Yeah. So I'm there at 1 o'clock in the morning, scrambling on my laptop, trying to turn all the stock to zero to cancel everything off because we were just getting so many sales. And there was a point where everything's out of stock on the website. I've closed my laptop. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. There's 30 grand's worth of outstanding sales. Yeah. And that was a moment where I was like, wow, I'm onto something here. Something is really going to kick off with this company.
What did that feel like? Like, can you remember kind of your thoughts and feelings at the time as like this sort of your 100xing basically overnight?
So that was the period where sort of like I dropped out of uni like the week before. I was starting to really dig in. So I felt like I was then taking, albeit not massive, it didn't feel like massive financial risk, albeit, the stand cost everything that we had to fly the YouTubers over, everything we had. We'd risked everything we had several times. But it was, I don't know, I just felt really excited to be honest. And the thing that we did well, which I'm really proud of, is we didn't rest at that point. We did one great event. So then the next year we did 2. The next year we did 5. And we just went. And we kept spending everything we had on punts that we thought might come off, but stuff that our gut told us was the right thing to do.
Nice. So between, let's say, 2013 and 2015, like before this event, how were people finding the supplements and the clothing? Like, what sort of marketing, if any, were you guys doing?
So Facebook was massive at the time. YouTube and Google were the main 3 things. So it was the whole Google shopping thing was massive for us. There was a change where all of a sudden you had to pay for your spot on Google shopping, which sort of affected us, but it's sort of like a bit of an evolve or die moment.
Yeah.
So then that was the point where we actually started getting involved with a little bit of paid advertising. Facebook, Instagram wasn't really a thing. So yeah, Facebook, YouTube, and Google.
So Facebook is in Facebook groups or Facebook ads? Like what?
Facebook pages was the thing.
Facebook pages. Oh, it was a thing.
So there was a Gymshark page which everyone would comment on, and
yeah.
I mean, we ended up building up to well over 1 million followers, which at the time was just huge.
That's insane.
And that was back in 2015, 2016.
Okay. And then on YouTube, what was the thing of like sending product to people and
so
what was
this is the thing. There? So we've not really done too much on YouTube, and at the time, so it was going back to my heroes. It was those guys that were great YouTubers. I say great YouTubers. Matt, who was the biggest at the time, had 20,000 subs, which by today's numbers are quite small. They're our heroes. They're uploading regularly on YouTube. I remember thinking like Lex Griffin, who's one of the first athletes. He lives up in Manchester. I remember thinking, I'd love Lex to try on our top, try on our tank and give us some feedback.
Yeah.
And then he just happened to wear it on YouTube, and that's where I think YouTube really kicked off for us.
And so while all this was happening, you were working at Pizza Hut?
Yes, so I ended up quitting Pizza around the event.
Around the event when things really started to take off.
Yeah, and I quit Pizza and university around the same time, so it was a little bit like, I remember my mum and dad being a little bit like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go and give it a go.
So one of the questions I get all the time, and I know you've recently done a video about this, is like, how do you have time to do all these things? So, you know, early days of Gymshark, you're running this business on the side, you're working at Pizza Hut, you're at uni. Like, what was your time management looking like at the time?
Well, I just want to say, so my time management then and now are vastly different, just completely different. So back then it was university, which, I mean, university, it's not like a solid 9 till 5, is it? Like you'll have busier days and quieter days. So basically university in the day, Pizza Hut shifts would always be 5 till 10, normally 10:30, latest 11 by the time you sort of washed up, because as a driver, you do the pot wash when you're in the building. And then it would be 10 or 11 onwards, I would work on Gymshark. Now, as Gymshark started to grow, we'd have live chats, emails and stuff. So Pizza Hut was great for me because I could do a delivery, then sit in my car, respond to 2 or 3 emails, and then carry on. So I'm doing 2 things at the same time. And that was that period where, I think it was the iPhone 3GS. I think it was my first iPhone. And I got my hands on one and I'm like buzzing because I can literally work on the go. So I was like almost doing 2 jobs at once whilst I was at Pizza Hut, which was absolutely brilliant for me.
Nice. And what does your time management look like now?
Incredibly well, just scheduled, organised, everything down to the second. It's actually really cool. And for me at the start, it was really difficult to get used to because I just loved the whole thing of doing whatever the hell I want when I wanted to do it. But now I've learned to be really disciplined and essentially, because I am horrifically unorganised, essentially outsourcing that to people who are incredibly well organised and absolutely love doing that sort of stuff. It's great for me because I basically wake up and it's like a set of train tracks, right? Every minute pretty much from 7 or 8 in the morning tends to be planned till 7 or 8 on the evening.
So what does that look like on a standard day? Like what does a day in the life of Ben Francis look
honestly,
like?
It varies so much. It's well different now because I'm not traveling. Yeah. So it's actually it's simple because it's like there's one moving part, whereas before moving around, we've got offices in Hong Kong, Mauritius, Denver, events that we would do all over the world. It was manic. Now it would be, I usually try and get into the office around 7, half 7, basically just meetings throughout. It could be, there'll be a particular day, for example, with one-on-ones in the team, so people that I work directly with. Yeah. There'll be certain projects that I'm working on, and then there'll be certain days allocated to those things. Once a week or every other week, I'll be in London, so they'll sort of batch up the London meetings and do all the London meetings on a particular day. I'll get involved with all sorts of different things, whether it's content on my YouTube. The only thing I would say is now it's changed because I'm moving into a CEO role. So I'm now just one step slightly more removed. Whereas previously it would be product and or brand. Whereas now I'm chatting with the people that are doing those things, which is, again, it's just a slightly different thing to get used to.